Parker Schnabel just did what everyone said couldn't be done. At only 30 years old, he delivered the biggest single-season gold haul in gold rush history. We're talking about $120 million worth of gold, a total so massive it shattered records, silenced critics, and locked in his reputation as the most successful young miner the industry has ever seen. This wasn't luck. It was the result of calculated risks and bold decisions that veteran miners openly called reckless. Parker poured millions into equipment upgrades his own crew questioned and scaled his operation to a level most people believed was impossible. While other miners celebrated seasons of 5,000 ounces, Parker's crew was moving tens of thousands of cubic yards of dirt every single day, even as competitors shut down due to weather, breakdowns, or exhaustion. His operation ran non-stop, day and night, built around redundant systems designed to keep gold flowing no matter what failed. The numbers were staggering. Processing records fell week after week. And even after accounting for enormous operating costs, Parker walked away with profits most miners only dream of, true generational wealth. His grandfather would have been proud. Todd Hoffman would have been shocked. And Tony Beats, the toughest critic in the Yukon, summed it all up with just 2 words when he heard the final tally: holy hell. But how Parker pulled this off, the risks he took, and what it means for the future of Gold Rush changes everything we thought we knew about modern gold mining. From day one, it was obvious this season was different. Parker invested in a brand new wash plant, a custom-built beast capable of processing 600 cubic yards of dirt per hour. For comparison, most operations were thrilled to hit 200. Parker didn't just raise the bar, he tripled it. But raw capacity meant nothing without dirt to feed it, and that required an excavation effort on a scale the Klondike had rarely seen. Multiple excavators worked in perfectly timed shifts. One loaded trucks, another stripped overburden, while a third dug straight into gold-bearing pay dirt. It was a carefully choreographed ballet of heavy machinery, each piece playing a critical role. During the peak of summer, the crew worked nearly non-stop, taking advantage of the Yukon sun that barely dipped below the horizon. Parker was everywhere, constantly on site, solving problems, making calls, and pushing himself and his crew to their limits. And almost immediately, the gold started pouring in. The first cleanup produced 350 ounces, a total that would have been a strong month for most operations. Parker's reaction said everything. It's a good start, but we need to do better. The second week brought in 420 ounces. The third week jumped to 480. The numbers climbed so fast that Parker had to completely rewrite his season projections. But success at that scale brought new problems. Even with a state-of-the-art wash plant, the system struggled to keep up. Conveyor belts strained. Pumps ran non-stop. Everything was pushed right to the edge of its design limits. "We're going to blow something," his head mechanic warned. "This equipment isn't meant to run this hard for this long." Parker didn't hesitate. "Then we build redundancy. Backup pumps, spare conveyors, whatever it takes. This operation does not stop." Those decisions added hundreds of thousands of dollars to operating costs. Backup generators were flown in. Critical systems were doubled. A full inventory of spare parts was kept on site. The mindset was simple. Nothing slows us down. And it worked. When a main pump failed in the middle of the night during a crucial run, the backup system kicked in within minutes. When a conveyor belt shredded, a replacement was installed before the day shift even arrived. Parker hadn't just built a mining operation, he built a resilient system designed to survive catastrophic failures without losing momentum. Equipment wasn't the only challenge. Managing a crew of more than 50 people working brutal hours demanded leadership Parker had spent years developing. Tempers flared. Exhaustion led to arguments. There were moments when people wanted to walk away. Parker handled it personally, balancing empathy with the high standards that defined his operation. "I know you're tired," he told one crew member ready to quit. "I'm tired too, but we're doing something special here, something people will talk about for years. Don't you want to be part of that?" Most stayed. They almost always did, because despite his demanding nature, Parker earned real respect. He never asked his crew to do something he wouldn't do himself. He was often the first on site and the last to leave. And when the gold was counted, the crew shared in the success through bonuses that made the grind worth it. As June rolled into July, the operation hit numbers that felt unreal. The wash plant processed more than 10,000 cubic yards of dirt per day. Gold recovery averaged over 100 ounces daily, and the ground showed no signs of running out. Word spread quickly through the Klondike. Other miners started showing up just to watch, stunned by the sheer scale and efficiency of Parker's operation. Some left inspired. Others left intimidated, realizing their own setups were relics by comparison. Rick Ness visited and stood in silence for several minutes before finally saying, "This is insane. How are you doing this?" Parker just smiled. 10 years of mistakes, and learning from every one of them. The most telling moment came when Tony Beets arrived unannounced. He walked the site quietly, taking it all in: the synchronized equipment, the processing speed, the gold totals posted on the board. When he finally spoke, it was with unmistakable respect. And in the Yukon, that might be the highest compliment there is. "You've built something impressive here, Parker. I'll give you that. But a strong start doesn't guarantee a strong finish. Let's see if you can keep this up all season." It was the closest thing to praise Parker had ever received from Tony Beets, and it only pushed him harder. By mid-July, Parker's total gold recovery had already surpassed what many miners hoped to achieve in an entire season. When his accountant ran the numbers based on current production rates, even he sounded stunned. If Parker maintained this pace through August, the projection came in around 6,000 ounces for the season. Parker didn't need a calculator. At current gold prices, that meant more than $12 million in gross revenue. By any standard, it was massive. But Parker saw something the projections didn't. The ground was getting richer. Geological surveys had predicted the gold concentration would increase as they dug deeper, and the data was proving it true. Each cleanup was yielding more gold per cubic yard than the last. "We're going past 6,000 ounces, Parker said. "By a lot." August in the Yukon is when mining seasons are won or lost. The weather still cooperates, but the clock is relentless. Every passing day brings the freeze closer, and the pressure to squeeze every ounce out of the ground becomes overwhelming. Parker responded by pushing everything into overdrive. He brought in additional excavators, running 4 machines at once for the first time. Work shifts were extended to near-continuous operations with rotating crews. And then he made one of his riskiest calls yet: opening a second processing site to handle the flood of pay dirt coming out of the ground. The second wash plant was older and less efficient, but it allowed them to process material that would otherwise sit untouched in stockpiles. Every cubic yard held potential gold, and Parker refused to leave anything behind. The pace was brutal. Even with built-in redundancy, breakdowns became a daily reality. Crew members operated in a constant state of exhaustion, fueled by adrenaline and the knowledge that they were part of something historic. And the gold kept coming. By mid-August, daily recoveries were exceeding 150 ounces. Sluice boxes filled faster than they could be cleaned out, turning gold recovery itself into a bottleneck. Parker authorized additional cleanup crews working in shifts, ensuring the gold was processed and secured without slowing down dirt movement. Then came the discovery that changed everything. As an excavator pushed deeper into the pay streak, the metal detectors went wild. The operator radioed Parker, barely containing his excitement. "Boss, you need to see this. I've never seen anything like it." When Parker arrived, the excavator bucket was filled with material glittering in the afternoon sun. This wasn't just gold-bearing dirt. It was ancient riverbed bedrock packed with nuggets, some as large as small stones. They had hit the motherlode. This was the source zone, where millions of years of erosion had concentrated gold into near-pure ore. Parker immediately redirected the entire operation to that pocket of ground. Every excavator, every truck, every ounce of processing capacity. What followed sounded unreal. daily gold totals surged past 200 ounces. Some days pushed close to 250. The cleanup room looked like a vault, gold stacking up faster than it could be weighed and stored. Parker had to arrange armored transport to move the gold to secure storage facilities in Dawson City. But success brings attention, and not all of it welcome. Rival miners began circling, trying to figure out exactly where Parker's rich ground was located. Some filed claim challenges, hoping to exploit a technical loophole. Others watched from a distance, frustrated by their own declining returns. With gold being pulled by the hundreds of ounces, security became a serious concern. Parker hired overnight guards. Cameras were installed covering every approach. The cleanup room was reinforced with security systems more commonly found in bank vaults. "This is insane," his foreman said, watching the upgrades. "We're mining gold, not guarding Fort Knox." Parker didn't smile. "When you're pulling numbers like this, we might as well be Fort Knox. I'm not taking chances." The concern proved justified. One night, motion sensors detected someone attempting to approach the equipment yard. Security chased them off, but the warning was clear. Parker's success had made him a target. Still, operations never slowed. Parker practically lived on site, sleeping in short bursts and constantly monitoring every detail. His crew worried about him burning out, but he ran on sheer determination. "I'll sleep in September," he told them. "Right now, we're making history." By late August, Parker's total had passed 5,000 ounces. The earlier projection of 6,000 ounces now looked conservative. If the rich ground held, totals of 7,000, even 8,000 ounces were suddenly possible. The numbers were almost impossible to grasp. This wasn't just a great season. This was life-changing, generational wealth, the kind of success that justified every risk, every sacrifice, every brutal hour. But Parker didn't celebrate early. He didn't count gold until it was locked in the vault. Then came the final push. September arrived with the first bite of autumn in the air, and the reality that time was nearly gone. Across the Klondike, most miners began shutting down, winterizing equipment and preparing for the long freeze ahead. But Parker Schnabel wasn't most miners. The rich ground was still paying off. The machines were still running. And Parker made the call to push deep into September, determined to pull every possible ounce before nature shut them down. "We're running until the ground freezes, or something catastrophic breaks," Parker told the crew. "I know you're exhausted. I know we've been pushing hard all season. But we're this close to something that may never be matched. Let's finish strong." Running on fumes, and fueled by the excitement of being part of a historic season, the crew agreed. The first week of September brought a new set of challenges. Temperatures dropped, making equipment sluggish and temperamental. Morning frost slowed startups, and fatigue-related mistakes began creeping in more often. A conveyor was damaged when a load was misjudged. An excavator threw a track, costing half a day in repairs. Problems that would normally be minor were magnified by sheer exhaustion. Still, the gold kept coming. Daily recovery stayed above 150 ounces, even if it dipped slightly from August's peak. The cumulative total kept climbing. 6,000 ounces, then 6,500, then 7,000. At 7,000 ounces, Parker allowed a brief pause. He gathered the crew, cracked open a case of beer, and thanked them. "Whatever happens from here," he said, raising a bottle, "this is already the best season of my career." Then he added, "But we're not done yet." The second week of September turned into a full-on race against time. Forecasts showed a major cold front moving in, one that would likely end the season for good. Parker had maybe 5 days left. He made a sharp, calculated decision. Focus only on the richest ground. Marginal areas were abandoned. Everything was redirected toward maximum gold recovery. From that point on, every minute mattered. The equipment ran non-stop. Crews worked rotating shifts, grabbing sleep wherever they could. Every delay meant gold left in the ground. Breakdowns became more frequent as machines, pushed beyond their design limits, showed the wear of months of non-stop operation. But Parker's investment in redundancy and spare parts kept things alive. Barely. When a major pump failed, processing nearly came to a halt. The backup system kicked in, but it couldn't match the main pump's output. Throughput dropped by nearly a third, costing precious time. Parker's mechanic worked through the night to fix it. At 3 in the morning, exhausted and covered in hydraulic fluid, he got the pump running again. Parker was there beside him, refusing to sleep while the operation was at risk. The final days blurred together. Load after load of rich pay dirt went through the plant. Cleanup after cleanup added more gold to the total. Every crew member pushed beyond limits they didn't know they had. On September 15th, with snow flurries in the air and nighttime temperatures dipping below freezing, Parker finally made the call. That's it. We're done. Secure everything and prepare for shutdown. The crew didn't cheer. They were too tired. Some sat down where they stood. Others drifted toward the break room. A few just stared at the wash plant that had been their entire world for 5 months. Parker stood alone at the processing site, watching the machines fall silent. The Klondike was quiet, except for the wind. The season was over. Next came the reckoning. The final weigh-in took 2 full days. Every ounce of gold had to be carefully counted, weighed, and documented. Parker's accountant worked alongside auditors to ensure absolute accuracy. The numbers were too big to leave any room for doubt. When the final total came in, even Parker struggled to absorb it. 8,100 ounces of gold. At the season's average gold price, the gross value topped $16 million. But that was only part of the story. Parker's operation had been so efficient, and the ground so rich, that the profit margin was extraordinary. After factoring in every expense, fuel, labor, equipment, land leases, and operating costs, the net profit came in at $12 million. And even that didn't tell the full story. The equipment hadn't been consumed. It was still his. The ground wasn't mined out. There were years of gold still waiting. When asset value and future potential were added in, the total value of what Parker had built approached $120 million. He had done it. The biggest season in gold rush history, not by a small margin, but by a gap so large it would stand as the benchmark for years. Word spread through the Klondike almost immediately. Miners who had doubted Parker's aggressive approach were forced to admit he'd been right. Operations content with modest returns began questioning their own conservative strategies. Todd Hoffman, once vocal in his criticism, went silent. There was nothing left to say. Parker had proven that bold, well-funded, aggressively run operations could achieve what once seemed impossible. Tony Beats, never quick with praise, made a rare public statement. "The kid did something I've never seen in 40 years of mining. A perfect season, no quitting, no excuses, just gold. That's respect." Rick Ness summed it up even more simply. Parker just changed the game. Every miner in the Klondike is going to be chasing what he did this season. And the Discovery Channel, which had followed Parker since he was a teenager, knew they hadn't just filmed a season of television. They had captured history. The season finale went on to become the highest-rated episode in Gold Rush history. But for Parker, the real reward had nothing to do with ratings, records, or money. What mattered most was proving what's possible when experience, smart investment, and relentless determination come together. Standing at the mine as the first real snowfall settled over the ground, Parker thought about how far he'd come, from working alongside his grandfather in a small operation to building one of the most successful mining seasons the Klondike had ever seen. "My grandpa always said the gold was there if you were willing to work for it," Parker said quietly. "I think he'd be proud." Parker Schnabel's $120 million season now stands as the single greatest achievement in Gold Rush history. It wasn't just about the gold, though 8,100 ounces speaks for itself. It was about vision, about seeing opportunity where others saw risk, about building systems capable of surviving the brutal demands of non-stop production, and about leading a team through conditions that would have broken most operations. At just 30 years old, Parker accomplished what many miners never reach in an entire lifetime. He built an empire, validated his methods, and silenced every critic who believed his age would limit his success against veteran miners. More than that, he raised the standard for what modern gold mining could be. The equipment, techniques, and operational strategies he introduced this season are already being studied and copied by mining operations around the world. The Klondike Gold Rush of the 1890s created legends. Parker Schnabel's 2024 season created a new one. His grandfather would be proud. His crew will remember it forever, and the mining industry will spend years trying to match what he achieved. The kid who took over his grandfather's mine at just 16 years old has now delivered the biggest season in Gold Rush history. And he's already planning. If this season proved anything, it's that Parker Schnabel's journey has only begun. Subscribe to follow what comes next, and join us here on The Timefold. Don't forget to like and subscribe.